Good evening, Canterbury. Thank you for joining us for this NewsMakers Extra. Well, it has certainly morphed into the most provocative and passionate civic issue of the year. Canterbury University's desire to return to the Arts Centre with a purpose-built music school in Hereford Street, and this joint venture has commenced its quest for resource consent. So what are the concerns? What are the fears? What is so fundamentally wrong with this project? Well, joining us are two frontline campaigners who believe the Arts Centre and the university are charting a disastrous course. From Save Our Arts Centre, Dux Deluxe owner Richard Sinke and director, university teacher and living work of art, Elric Hooper. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening.
Save Our Arts Centre. Richard, from what?
Well, from the very fear of what they're proposing to do, is to build this monstrosity of a building right there in that very precious area, which is our Arts Centre. And in doing so, would absolutely close in the existing buildings and just destroy the atmosphere of the heritage environment.
What motivated you, Elric, to get involved in this campaign?
Well, I think three things. Firstly, I am very concerned about the future of music in this city. I've had a long music tradition, and I've worked in music schools and conservatorium teaching stagecraft for opera singers usually, and that's what I'm doing at the university at the moment with Dame Malvina's school. And the facilities needed for a great conservatorium, if you look at a place like Melbourne, for instance, which is probably the most recent, there are huge spaces so that music can reverberate. It's not in the centre of the city either. And if we build within this very confined space, we're going to get yet another rabbit warren. Warren? Is that the word I mean? And I think we're losing a great opportunity to build a great music school. I also think it's a very old-fashioned concept. Over the last 50 years, the boundaries between the various performing art forms have been dissolving. And music has as much to do with film, television and theatre in our society than hitherto. They're not as separate disciplines as they used to be. And I think we should be thinking of building a performing arts centre at Ilam. The oddity is that there's a huge and wonderful space for it out there.
More space, obviously, than what there is on the Hereford Street car park site. You have described the design as a dud in terms of its aesthetics and its potential functionality. Why so? Why is it so bad?
Well, for the reason I've just said, the spaces are not big enough.
Right.
And it's ironic that originally the theatre, I was very early on consulted about the specifics of a theatre in this, and very wisely the university said to me, what particular sort of theatre would be a gift to the city? And I thought, well, that's good of them. Yeah. And I suggested early on a 450-seat theatre with an orchestra pit and a flying tower is exactly what the city needs. There isn't such a place in the city. And but more and more it got cut back with this new design for the centre. And ironically, we're going to end up with three 300-seat auditoria within 50 yards of each other. The Great Hall, the Court Theatre and this new auditorium, which has terrible faults.
Sure. From an arts centre perspective, Richard, why are you appearing to be a lone pony when it comes to the tenants of the arts centre? Why are the majority keeping so quiet?
Well, that's a puzzling question, isn't it? I know that the Academy Theatre are very opposed to the project, but they're just undergoing lease negotiations with the Arts Centre and don't want to jeopardise those negotiations.
Because they'd be directly affected as well, wouldn't they? Obviously?
They would be directly affected, hugely so,
yeah.
Yes. As regards to, say, the other cafes on site, Le Caf and Annie's, I guess they're far enough away from the potential construction building to not be quite so affected in their business sense. Perhaps they even see it as an opportunity, as many people have pointed to me that, oh, look, you're going to be bringing all these students on site and all these new customers coming out here to the new theatre, and that's a possibility. However, I think what we're losing in the process is far greater than any benefits that are going to accrue to the businesses on site. Now, just anecdotally, I know that a lot of the people in the market square are very concerned, but they're only casual tenants who come on the weekends. But in terms of the whole tenancy, there's not really a cohesive organisation that's meeting on a regular basis that's discussing this particular proposal, and I believe that the tenants' representative on the Arts Centre board has been removed.
Could I just pick up on something you
Certainly.
just said?
Yep.
The university put it about that this is going to increase audiences. I was head of an organisation which has done demographic research on audience attendance for over 30 years, and the stuff is all there, the research is there. It's highly unlikely that there will be more foot traffic or audiences coming in there at the moment, in the future. We found that between only 1% and 2% were passing impulse buyers of tickets. Mm-hmm. Most of the people in this city think ahead to buy tickets for concerts or plays or whatever. And most of those people come from two major areas in this city, Merivale, Fendleton and Cashmere. And that Ilam is much easier to get to in a way than a central city, particularly for car parking. There's a whole set of things that they've put forward without research.
I know that the university has talked frequently about the idea that it will be attractive to lingering tourists. Do you think it will be a draw card for visitors to the city?
I find that very, very doubtful. If you consider that when most of the tourism in Christchurch happens between late November and March, that's when the majority of tourists are in Christchurch, the university is actually taking vacation, students will be on holiday. I can't see how they're going to utilise that building efficiently that's going to attract tourists in there, other than perhaps the odd summer concert. But most of the students will be away, Mike. They'll be out there doing their holiday jobs or elsewhere. There
has been a bit of reportage in recent days about the loss of sunlight to the beloved beer garden at the Ducks Deluxe. Is that a small price to pay for progress?
Well, you'd have to ask yourself that question. I think that the Ducks Courtyard will still get plenty of sunshine. It's obviously only, I guess, the midsummer sun or that late summer sun that gets into the courtyard later in the evening. Most of the time it'll still have sunshine. If it's a warm evening, people can still sit outside. I was a little surprised that the press picked up that particular issue as being a major concern. I think there's actually other far bigger concerns here that should be concerning the people of Christchurch, such as the lack of transparency, sort of democracy on this whole issue. So many of the issues are hidden behind board minutes, closed doors. There are things that we're not allowed to get hold of. We've even gone to the Ombudsman to ask for more information on the funding, because the City Council was consulting the public of Christchurch on this whole funding issue, yet giving us no information on which we can actually look at and study to make relevant comments on.
All right, we'll pick up on some of these concerns shortly. Do stay with us.